Well, welcome back to the Better Days podcast. Hopefully, y'all been taking care of yourselves this week. I had a pretty good week. At the time of this recording of the video, it's Easter, so happy Easter. Resurrection of Christ, took place third day. He is risen, so it's it's a time to reflect, celebration, and be proud that we are forgiven for our sins and that some of the things in nature that we do, and to know that Jesus lives on and God's still moving through this earth, as some people just don't think so or not, but I do. So it is what it is. But hopefully y'all been doing pretty well. As you can see by the title of this video, the topic will be about digital footprint. And then I have some little examples of digital footprint into addition of I guess you could say a news segment topic a little bit, where I'll talk about some things that happen pretty locally around where I live at. So I'm not gonna try to drag this video out too long, and I'm gonna just get on straight to it. Let me adjust my camera real quick. There we go. I'm gonna try to get onto this topic. As far as why my co-host isn't on this video, God knows. Literally every time we're supposed to record, something miraculously comes up. Somebody has to suddenly talk to him, or I guess do something with him at the time of the recording. And low key, the last video kind of got rolling a little bit, and I kind of want to keep the momentum going and pump out some more content, at least weekly. Maybe not posting like 5 times a week, but at least recording twice a week, and then maybe posting once a week, so we can have things in the vault, see how we can move. But we're already a little bit too long in this intro, and we're gonna get straight to the topic. So the first question, of course, is what is digital footprint? So I checked out this all is coming from Managing Your Digital Footprint. It's an article by University of Nebraska, Lincoln.edu. So if you want to check it out, I'll try to remember to put the link in the description down below. But a simple definition, I'm reading this from my notes. Digital footprint is data of your online use, such as profiles, accounts, images. So these are pictures you may post on Instagram, Snap, wherever. Videos. So you like example of this is digital footprint, me recording the video. Emails, obviously I have to create emails to access a lot of these websites, which goes to the next thing. Websites is from your digital footprint. So this is basically all your online use. So that's a pretty simple definition. And then my next question in this topic is, why is digital footprint important? The reason why digital footprint is important is because it can impact what people know or perceive from you. This goes from the following: future employers, co-workers, adults, kids, and any other figures that have access to the internet that can see what you did in the past. So it is important to be mindful of your online activity. And I kind of want to go into that for a second. So obviously I can't sit there and act like I'm Mr. Perfect on this and I've always gone on the internet and post everything perfect, and haven't, may have put out something that could, kind of maybe hurt my reputation, hurt my image. Maybe it could be some words said or an action did, maybe a comment. You never really know. So it definitely is important to not, put yourself out there all the times. Of course, if you check them little Instagram comments or TikTok comments, typically if people are going to say some very negative and outlandish remarks, they're going to use a burner account. And if you obviously know what that is, just a little fake account. You create a little side email, you post and say whatever, and pretty much no one's going to bother trying to track the IP address or track from who's the original owner, because it's just literally like a blank user for the most part. So I'm not advocating that you need to create fake accounts to get people off your trail, because at that point I think you low-key got an issue if you have this urge to say very negative things online, but you want to be that kind of throw the rocks and then hide your hands behind it kind of attitude about it. So I'm not advocating for you to make backup accounts to try to post whatever you want. But that's what people do. The best thing to do is just try your best to avoid not doing it. And yes, like I said, I know we've done things in the past, and the best thing you really can do is just learn from it. Understand, if you were 21, you may have did something when you were 13 or 14. You just gotta understand, hey, you're not that age anymore. You don't have, you probably have matured a little bit. You don't act like that as much. Things like that. So one of the other things that you can do sometimes is like minimize your post. So that means don't post 24/7, and potentially, maybe old content that you have, it wouldn't hurt to delete or at least archive it, just so it's like, can't be viewed or accessed. Once again, I'm not sitting here saying you need to throw rocks and hide your hands, but if you're trying to move more in a professional image, it wouldn't hurt to do so. And heck, I'm kind of an example of this. One of my friends about a year or two ago, he was like, hey, you're trying to move better, you're trying to get, sponsorships or deals, you're trying to get big. It ain't gonna hurt to get rid of some of them older videos you have from like 4 or 5 years ago. Because, right now I'm 19. At the time he told me I may have been like 18. But it's videos that I had on my account from like 12, 13 years old. And he's like, hey, just go ahead and get rid of it, because you want to be, look more as a marketable tool, and you want like a pretty decent perception and how people view you. So I low-key listen, because it's like, if you keep some of that stuff around, it could hurt me from, making different sources of income or getting different opportunities that can lead to different networks and connections and different things like that. So obviously, having a clean digital footprint wouldn't hurt. And like I said, digital footprint ain't gotta always be negative, because you could be like an influencer and helping people for mental health, or you could be a financial advisor, do-it-yourself person, do-it-yourself home projects, an educator. So you like teach English, math, science. You put that on the internet. That's a good digital footprint, but people don't think about it, because we're so used to glorifying negative topics and subjects. The moment you see something positive, you're like, oh, you don't even know how to react to it, or you just don't pay attention to it. But the minute something negative, everybody has some little 2 cents to give in. So digital footprint doesn't always have to be negative, but of course, if it is negative, it can harm you. I mean, I'm in university right now, and there's like this little app, I ain't gonna say the name of it, but it's been some dudes, I don't know about females necessarily, but it's, I'm gonna say sending certain pics, and next thing they're sitting there with a restraining order, possibly kicked from the university, restricted from being on campus, and even have to register as a SEX offender, which is pretty insane, just over like one image, and you don't know if it was mutual or consensual. So it's definitely like a lot of crazy stuff out there. And like I said, we may have done things like that in the past, or sent images, when you're younger. But of course, when you get older, you're like, hey, you may go from just like, a little misdemeanor or a little warning to next thing you know, you got a I don't think it's a class 1 felony, but you got like a first degree felony, and the next thing that's pretty much screwing you up. And that's pretty insane, but that's just how things move and things kind of work nowadays with technology and all that. So that's kind of an example of how sometimes negative digital footprint can be. Another couple of examples, you have social media influencers that have been canceled for saying racist things, back then, maybe talking to kids in a weird way, and they were, an adult, maybe they're like 21 or something, but they're talking to like a 12-year-old, and it's one of them unsettling kind of conversations or topics, and you're like, whoa, they shouldn't be doing that, and it gets found out, and that person suddenly loses their followers, loses brand deals, loses sponsorships, just because of something they did, 10 years ago that they can't even really control now. And since it's left online, it's kind of up to whatever people want to perceive now. Do we want to rock with this person? Do we want to support them? So it's definitely a lot of stuff out there that can positively impact you. Like I said, you can be an educator, influencer, that could be like an iShow speed. You're traveling the world and you're just showing different parts of cultures and stuff like that. And then you can also have, maybe you post something harmful, explicit, toxic content, or you may have said something about a figure and it came off the wrong way and it wasn't, appropriate language, and the next thing you know, you're kind of cooked. And then I have some more examples of digital footprint that I wrote down in my notes. So these are 2 examples from rappers. The first one comes from PNB Rock. So he was, if y'all recall, it was about 3 years ago, something like that. He's eating at this restaurant. It was called Roscoe's House of Chicken and Waffles. He's with his girlfriend. I'm guessing he chose to eat there, having a good time. Everything's going well. Then after some time, into their meal, what's his name? Oh, I wrote it down in my notes. They won't release his name, but the son of Freddie Trone came to attack PNB Rock and steal his jewelry. He instigated a fight, and then eventually PNB Rock was shot at, I think, twice, and he ends up dying from it. Then it comes out, and this was true in the deleted post, that his girlfriend, prior to the robber showing up, had actually revealed the location, so she tagged where they were eating at. Coincidence, a robber comes in, finds out where they live at. I mean, not where they live at, but where they were eating at. Now he's dead. I'm not saying she did it on purpose to get him killed, but it just even goes to show, even when you don't even have malintent, unfortunately, the situation just ended up bad. He ended up losing his life. He was a pretty successful rapper for the most part, at least from the streaming service. I don't know about how radio and how deep into the industry, but definitely in terms of streaming, he's a pretty big rapper when I was younger. And that article came from the LA Times, if you want to check it out. It was written by editors Richard Winton, Keenan Droghorn, Gregory Yee, and Noah Goldberg. So if you want to check that out, I'll try to link that down below. My second example about a similar situation comes from the artist Young Dolph. He's a native of Memphis, Tennessee, and he's expressed online a lot that he loves to eat cookies from this place called Makita's Homemade Cookies. So it's a hometown restaurant. He wants to support the owners. He's definitely cool with them. Different things like that. And like I said, with the digital footprint, I think on either his Snap Stories or Instagram, something like that, he would always post where he's at. He would tag their location, like, hey, come down here. He's supporting them and different things like that. He's giving them some kind of social media attention. But of course, people got to spin it and make it bad. So the biggest key here that I remember is that Young Dolph would post around the same time frame all the time. So you would consistently be there like in the afternoon to like 3 p.m. or something like that. So you kind of see where I'm about to head with this. On November 17th, 2021, Hernandez, Govan, Justin Johnson, and Cornelius Smith Jr. would be sitting in a white Mercedes-Benz around that time frame, because they knew that's when Young Dolph liked to go, buy the cookies. And once they, see him, they made an advance, approached him, attempted to rob, turns deadly. They shoot at him, shots are fired. I think they even hit some shots into the store, and he ends up, getting killed that day. So that was tragic to hear about, of course. And Mr. Govan, he gets charged with first-degree murder because he's the one that ultimately pulled the trigger. The other 2 men, Mr. Johnson and Mr. Smith Jr., I want to say, they would be charged with like not accessory after the fact, but being an accomplice. So ultimately, the main reason why he ended up dying, and it's not his fault, it's because he posted online where he went. And I mean, it doesn't hurt to post online where you go, but I've heard about people, especially travel advisors. I know this is a little bit side topic. They always say, if you're gonna post where you at, make sure that when you make that post, you're in a different location. So if you take a vacation, a trip to a state or somewhere, make sure that by the time that location is dropped, that you're no longer there. So if someone does try to come looking for you, you're obviously not gonna be there. So that could be, a helpful tip. But once again, it's just something you don't think of. You don't expect someone to come up on you and want to rob you or get rid of you for whatever odd reason. But that's a little bit of a side note. But obviously, they got charged with that. This article came from the AP News, written by Adrian Sands. So if you want to check out the full details, you can. But I kind of took what I needed from it to relate to the topic of this video. And then my third example, and this one goes to show that even digital footprint, you could be a regular person that messes up with leaking information, and you can be somebody that deals with finances. It doesn't matter who. It's not like it's a specific label or a specific kind of person. Anyone could practically leave digital footprint online, and bam, information can be compromised, or people can know something about you. And in this case, this deals with Bank of America. So in March 2025, Bank of America had notified its customers a data breach had taken place. In their report, and this is the quotes that I wrote down, a result of improper handling of confidential documents by a third-party document destruction service provider. So I think they were trying to get rid of information, but somehow it got leaked anyways. And it reads further, Bank of America let its customers know that names, addresses, phone contacts, email contacts, sex or your gender, date or dates of birth, financial account information, social security numbers, whatever other data you can think of. And Bank of America ended up offering the customers effective identity theft protection for at least 2 years, so they didn't charge them any money. And also to mention this, and I found this out later on, this isn't even Bank of America's first time having a data breach. So this goes to show to you that even people that work with trusted jobs, when it's you basically trusting someone, a bank, that they're gonna take care of your information, but then you're reading the email in the morning, your information has been compromised, and possibly someone can know where you live, know where your social security number is, know your passwords, know your emails, etc. That's pretty scary. And this just even goes to show that people that work in a professional field that have probably had training in this subject could still even make a mistake from time to time. So it just goes to show that I don't think you're going to be perfect when it comes to digital footprint, but it doesn't hurt to kind of always have that monthly or every how many months, a refresher of what to do on the internet, what not to do, what information, you think is appropriate to put out versus what not to, just different things like that. So it just doesn't hurt to kind of refresh over this topic. Once again, and I've already said it like a million times, I can be kind of guilty, maybe in some things I've posted. I'm not gonna act like I'm a perfect saint and everything I have is peace be with you and all that other stuff. There have been times I've may have put some content that could be seen negatively. I'm not gonna say necessarily offensive, but just negatively. And the day it's kind of out there, whether it's saved or not, it's out there. You just gotta move forward and just kind of be careful online. But that's just the reality of things. So this is just kind of one of those videos. If you wanted to just come back, take a look at it, you can just have a little bit of a reminder. So that's what this kind of podcast was about. Like I said, I would have wanted to have my co-host with this. This actually was one of his topics, but like I said, he's been delaying a little bit too long, and we got to start pumping out content a little bit more. We're getting closer towards summertime, so eventually we should be able to consistently upload, because we really won't have like schoolwork going on. It'll just be work, on the job, and then that's pretty much it. But I did mention in the very beginning of this video that I wanted to talk about, some things that happen pretty locally. So this ain't me revealing bad information, but obviously, I'm a South Carolina native. I'm not going to say where, but this is just some news that I heard pretty locally around me, and it was pretty insane to say the least. So the first thing, and these aren't going to be sources tagged, these are just pretty much short bullet points. The first thing I heard was Clemson professor was charged and arrested for explicit child material. That's just disgusting. No really excuses for that. Wild to think that somebody of education, of higher learning, is messaging other people and distributing certain content that's obviously extremely illegal, dangerous, deals with child trafficking. You know, that's a pretty dangerous guy that they low-key got out of the public, and rightfully so. I mean, yeah, he's working with young adults, but you know, they're 18 to 23, whatever. You know, this guy's preying on people that could possibly be, you know, his nieces, nephews kind of age, or even his children, depending on his age. But yeah, he ends up being arrested for distributing child material. Next news, I don't even know if they'll allow you to say the word, but a shooting happened near Anderson Alternative School. But the shooting had no connections to deal with students or teachers. The school and the college nearby, I think it's Anderson University, were on lockdown temporarily till they could find the suspect, apprehend him, make sure he's not running around and going after other people. So that's pretty insane. And also, like I said, I think there are some other similar situations happen. I know the Florida State incident happened over this past week. I think a Texas high school happened. So it's pretty dangerous with just how people misuse certain amendments and rights to their sick behavior. You know, a lot of these rights are supposed to be defenses, and we have a lot of laws just being stretched extremely. And I may make a topic about that. I have to consult with my co-hosts and see what we can do. And then my next topic, or not topic, but next point, in Chester County. So this is about it's like upstate, but it's not really upstate, but it's kind of more towards the North Carolina area. A school bus blew a tire and turned over in the middle of Highway 77. 21 people were injured, and a student unfortunately passed away. So condolences go out to I think his family. And the kids appeared to have they came back from a field trip from Charlotte, North Carolina. And I'm guessing at some point, you know, that just randomly took place, you know, out of anyone's control. It is, you know, you hate to hear that a middle school student passes away, you know, young, doesn't, you know, have an opportunity or can't experience certain things anymore. But obviously, at least glad to hear that 21 people that were injured did not sustain life-threatening injuries and didn't go. But it's just obviously, you know, pretty wild situation. And then here's the last one. And this is back to college. Limestone University announced to their entire faculty and staff and students that they are in $30 million of debt. And before this semester, so 2025 semester, spring semester ends, they need at least $6 million to just keep their institution open, and that would still put them $24 million in debt. But somehow they found themselves in this debt. They didn't alert anyone. What's pretty crazy about this is that they're an athletic school, so majority of the people there are athletes. So, you know, where they're gonna go, they're gonna transfer within conference or try to transfer out. You know, a lot of rosters, in particularly in football, are set. A lot of teams are doing summer practices or, you know, getting towards that. You know, they're already getting prepared. You know, pretty much sports is all year. So a lot of other teams are getting prepared, and it's going to be hard for them to be integrated into a new system when they're trying to find a new place to call temporarily home. So this is obviously pretty detrimental. And I wouldn't say detrimental, but pretty damaging to some, you know, athlete's career. There could be somebody on the right trail, and they don't know if they're going to ever really be able to play again or whatever. They just don't know what's going to happen. You know, you got FAFSA coming up, you got all this going down. But ultimately, people suspect that embezzling and financial mismanagement is suspect and playing part of the closure. In my opinion, I do think that is true, but I don't think we're getting full details. So I'm gonna give y'all some, like, not real inside information, but from what I know, so you can pop in a quick Google search. They're a private institute, but the thing is, I think from a 2022 statistic or 23, they accept 89.5% students. If y'all understand what 89.5% means, that's basically 90% people. You're telling me out of 100 people, only 10 are going to get left out, 90 are going. So that's a 100-person sample. They're already a private school, so there may be only so many scholarships students can get. I find it really hard to believe that you became short on money, but you literally let 90% of your applicants into the school. I don't believe it for 1 second. My personal theory is that, and this is a little bit of a backstory, about 10 years ago, Limestone, they had started a football program for the first time, and they were pretty bad. I had a brother that went up there. You know, he played pretty much, but you know, the coaching just wasn't there. They were barely winning 2 games at that, and even had winless years. But over these last couple of years, they went from 2 wins or whatever, suddenly started winning 7, 8 games for like 3 years in a row. I suspect that that money that they have in debt now, that was probably supposed to go, you know, through education, maybe to improve dormitory conditions, maybe to teachers, maybe, you know, to fund actual facilities to grow the school. They may have took some of that academic budget, put it into the football budget, and now that they spent way too much over their hand, it's exposing that they can't really fund the football program. Because I don't find it too coincidental that, you know, your football team gets better, you're building new athletic facilities, you're even trying to build like a new football stadium for them, and then out of nowhere you're suddenly in debt. And I think you just used money that was supposed to be for education into football, and that's probably why they're in the situation that they are in and won't say it. That's just my theory. Wouldn't shock me if that story comes out at all. Just because if you look at the new era of sports, a lot of money's going to football primarily, went into basketball, and you got these teams that don't want to feel left out. They want to grow their school. They want as many students as possible. Some of these departments are making a lot of risk by trying to force themselves to be something that they're not. So putting a lot of money into that just to not only have to close your athletics down, but have to close the entire school. This isn't, I mean, to me, that just doesn't look like it's worth it. And that just shows that not every team can operate at a high level when it comes to athletics. And sometimes you may have to just swallow your medicine on what you're not good at and what you are good at. But that was my last topic. I may have sounded a little bit like playing in the video. My eyes aren't too heavy, but I've been kind of irritated and just really wanted to get this video out. So it's low-key been kind of calm. I was able to talk out this video. But my computer's still in the shop, so that's why I'm recording this from my phone. I wish I had my computer because I could then be able to, screen share on there and, show some of these articles that that y'all can see and different things like that if I have to record on my own. And it'd be a little bit more interactive. So sorry for that. Just recording off my phone and whatever I wrote on my notes. So this is a pretty short podcast topic. I talked about digital footprint, what it is, why is it important, examples of digital footprint, and then told a little bit of local news that's going on. So that's kind of a recap of what's been happening. So I think this is our 7th episode or so, and obviously we want to keep growing. I can't lie, we both are guilty of this. We need to be posting more on Instagram, giving you updates there. Need to just go ahead, create a TikTok account and quit the land. And ultimately we want to grow on different platforms. But of course, when it comes to our long form content, such as these I don't know why I got the hiccups or burps or whatever. When it comes to these podcast topics, we want to post obviously here on YouTube. So it wouldn't hurt, leave a comment, like the videos, maybe, we can hear some of your opinions down below or whatever, but we want to really grow this channel and be more consistent, because I think we can honestly, if we put our minds to it, we can get this channel to grow. But if you want to check us out, this channel is called Better Days, so that is BETTER space DAYS. Yes, that's 2 S's. And we obviously have some previous videos if you want to check out. Y'all can, but we're going to try to pump out some more content. Hopefully I'll have them back for the next episode. But that's really all I got to say. Signing out. Like I said, happy Easter. Hopefully y'all have a blessed day, blessed week, and y'all, you're doing good. You're growing and learning and just moving on and just having fun in this life for real. But signing out.